Of the many influences on how we view men and women, media are the most pervasive and one of the most powerful. Compared with new media, traditional media have extremely high restrictions on freedom of speech and the right of speech. Traditional media occupy limited information transmission channels, possess absolute authority, and occupy the commanding heights of discourse power, making the channel resources or communication becomes scarce resources. However, before the spread of new media, traditional media are intertwined in our daily life, hinting their messages into our consciousness at every turning point. All forms of media communicate images of the sexes, many of which perpetuate unrealistic, stereotypical, and limiting perceptions. There are three themes that describe how the traditional media represent gender. First, women are underrepresented, which falsely implies that men are the cultural standard and women are unimportant and invisible. Second, men and women are portrayed in stereotypical ways that reflect and sustain socially endorsed views of gender. Third, depictions of relationships between men and women emphasize traditional roles and normalize violence against women. First, a primary way in which the media distorts reality is in underrepresenting women, whether it is prime time television, in which there are 3 times as many white men as women, or children's programming, in which males outnumber females by 2 to 1, or newscasts, in which women make up 16% of newscasters and in which stories about men are included 10 times more often than ones about women. Media misrepresent actual proportions of men and women in the population. This constant distortion tempts us to believe that there are really more men than women, and further, that men are the cultural standard. Second, stereotypical portrayals of women and men. In general, the media continue to present both women and men in stereotype ways that limit our perceptions of human possibilities. Typically, men are portrayed as active, adventurous, powerful, sexually aggressive, and largely uninvolved in human relationships. Television programming for all ages disproportionately depicts men as serious, confident, competent, powerful, and in high-status positions. Women are portrayed as significantly younger and thinner than women in the population as a whole, and most are depicted as passive, dependent on men, and enmeshed in relationships or housework. Female characters devote their primary energies to improving their appearance and taking care of homes and people. Because the media pervades our lives, the ways they misrepresent genders may distort how we see ourselves and what we perceive as normal and the desirable for men and women. Third, stereotypical images of relationships between men and women. Given the media stereotypical portrayals of women and men, we should not be surprised to find that relationships between women and men are similarly depicted in ways that reinforce stereotypes. Two themes demonstrate how the media reflect and promote traditional arrangements between the sexes. First, woman's dependence, man's independence. Walt Disney's award-winning animated film, The Little Mermaid, vividly embodies females' dependence on males for identity. In this feature film, the mermaid quite literally gives up her identity as a mermaid in order to become acceptable to her human lover. In this children's story, we see a particularly obvious illustration of the asymmetrical relationship between woman and man that is more subtly conveyed in other media productions. Second, man's authority, woman's incompetence. One of the most pervasive ways in which media define males as authorities is in commercials. Women are routinely shown anguishing over dirty floors and bathroom fixtures, only to be relieved of their distress when Mr. Clean shows up to tell them how to keep their homes spotless. Even when commercials are aimed at women selling products intended for them, up to 90% of the time, a man's voice is used to explain the value what is being sold. Using male voiceovers reinforces the cultural view that men are authorities and women depend on men to tell them what to do. Traditional media deliver a single message to as many people as possible through one-way communication, which spreads across a blanket network such as television and radio. This means that only the sender or source of the message decides to publish, televise, or broadcast, and the receiver always receives the message. This results in the accuracy of the information received by the recipient being subject to confirmation, as this is not a two-way communication and there is no authority to certify it. Receiving the wrong message can lead to a deviation in values. The emergence of new media gives them the right to find a platform to share their opinions through social media. People are able to voice out and speak for themselves. In addition to many feminist leaders developed and practiced primarily by the women's movement to ensure equity in leadership opportunities, social impact organizations can greatly benefit with improving their organizational cultures as well as the quality of external programs by exploring what feminist leadership means to them in practice. The government must strike a balance between freedom of speech and media censorship so that everyone has the right to know the truth. While the whole society develops, it will be promoted in the context of promoting political and economic growth. Thank you.